Hello again, welcome back everyone. LiquorHound here with you, and thank you for joining me once again for another spirit review video. Today we're going to be taking a look at some really big time ryes, okay? These are relatively new as far as on the market, and one of which has been named the world's best rye, that being the Millstone 10 years old Founders Reserve. Now, I actually have a little personal connection to this bottle because, I blend for St. Sally, which is out of the Iron Root Distillery there in Denison, Texas. St. Sally does a rye called the Nobleman Rye, which is roughly a 7, 8, 9-year-old rye that was finished for about a year in Tokai cask, a Hungarian sweet wine, very similar to Sauternes. It's actually a noble rot wine, both are, so that's why we called it the Nobleman. But it's 107 proof. We've done 3 batches so far, and batch 3 actually won the Best American Rye at Whiskey Magazine's World Whiskey Awards for 2024 about, I don't know, a few months back. And so we were surprised by that. It was great, but really, surprised. And then we knew we were going to have to go against the other world ryes because, you know, a lot of other countries make fantastic ryes. So we knew we had our work cut out for us. And when it went to the final competition, we actually lost to this one. No big deal. Like I said, I was just happy to, any kind of accolades, always great. But of course, the second I hear that this thing won, my LiquorHound instincts kick in, and I immediately have to order in a bottle. So that's what we have here to review. Unfortunately, this is the Founders Reserve 10-year-old American Oak, is not available in the U.S. So by the time you order it in to do the conversion, I want to say you end up paying $95 US for the actual bottle over there, and then to ship it, it's like $130, something like that. But that's what we're going to review here. It's bottled at 105.2 proof. There is no finishing, but it is it says 10-year-old rye from the Netherlands, Dutch whiskey. And what else did it say? Oh, they use like windmills to crush their grains, and all that kind of information is on their tube. It comes on a tube like this. And on the back, it talks about their fermentation for 5 days and the copper pot stills they use. Like I said, the windmill thing, crushing. So we're going to take a look at this one, see what that's all about. Then I was also with the St. Sally. I was in New Orleans Bourbon Festival. And when I was there, I met Sean Josephs. He's the founder and blender for Pinhook, and provided this sample, which is an 8-year-old rye in their vertical series. Okay, it's bottled at 108.4 proof. There is no finish done on that either. Okay, but it is 95.5 rye, so it's sourced MGP Indiana rye. Then we have over here the Magi. Now the Magi blended rye whiskey is out of Cat Eye Distillery. Now Cat Eye Distillery is famous for doing a lot of really mature blends, and that's because they were able to get in, and I think they're owned by the NASA family, and they were able to get really old stock back when it was plentiful, and they've been aging it up and using it in their blends. So if you've ever heard of Obtainium light whiskey, it was like a 26, 27-year-old light whiskey they released. And when I'm in the Northeast, up in New York, New Jersey areas, Boston, I will see those products on some shelves. Now here in Texas, we don't see them, but fortunately they do a lot of online sales. So if you go to their website, Cat Eye Distillery's website, you can see their shop link, and it gives you all their online retailers and stuff like that. Price point on this one's $85, about 80, no, $80, because I think the Pinhook was about 85, and again, this one's about 95. The only difference is this one on the Magi is a blend of, the youngest rye in here is 7.9 years old, MGP, Indiana rye. And then they have like an 11-year-old French oak from Poland, I believe. Let me put my glasses on, I can actually read it, because they do give you all the details on the back here. Let's see, 6 barrels of almost 8-year-old double oaked MGP rye, 1 barrel of 11-year-old French oak Polish rye, 1.5 barrels of a 21-year-old Canadian rye. It's a Palisade rye. 2 barrels of a 22-year-old Canadian rye, finished in port barrels for a year. Now, that Canadian rye is going to be from the Black Velvet Distillery in Alberta. So, but still, this has 21, 22-year-old ryes in it, the youngest being pretty much 8-year-old, okay? But it is 107 proof. So 108.4, 107, and 105.2, which we're going to start with the champ here. All right. on the nose, the first thing that hits me is it's a young rye, at least if you're nosing this blind, because it's staying in that lemon pine spectrum, right? But the more you stay in this glass, you pick up that freshness of the rye, that real light floralness. And there's also a little bit of stone fruit in here, kind of like a apricot or a peach. And then the oak in here feels pretty new, like new lumber, right? Like maybe it's been seasoned a little bit, like it's outdoors, but it's not old. You know, sometimes when whiskeys mature for typically 8, 10, 15 years, that oak will reach a really sweet spot where it's like this, you get this dense oak, but it's sweet vanilla mixed in with it really tightly. And that's what I love. I love rich, sweet oak. And this one, it's definitely more on that raw oak side of things. It almost has a little bit of like a sandalwood element to it. But everything's light, very light, airy rye. Now, I'll go ahead and taste. Let's go ahead and taste it. We'll stay on it. Good medium, just above medium viscosity. There is a little cocoa in there that I wasn't picking up on the nose. Lots of fresh cracked rye, I'll give it that. At 105.2 proof, it enters fairly soft. You get that almost like a lemon meringue, little pine needles in there as well. A little bit of that new oak starts rising up in the mid palate, in with a little bit of the baking spice. There's that peach apricot thing is in here, but it's light. It's very light. Everything about this whiskey is pretty light. The cocoa again dropping in. It's in there on the back end, a dusting of cocoa. It's enjoyable. It kind of really good viscosity. I would say medium, just above medium, almost medium high viscosity. I like that about it. Yeah, it's really focused on the rye. Fresh rye, lemon, you get that lemon pine, little cocoa touch, a whisper of that apricot peach, and that kind of newer oak. That's about it. Overall, I do like it, and I think it is a sipper, and it's something cool to have in the bar. But if you were going to give somebody who's a big rye whiskey drinker, like let's say you like if you like Booker's Rye, let's say you love Booker's Rye, that's a very bourbony rye, right? This is not going to be for you. This is on the opposite end of that spectrum. This Booker's Rye is dense rye, but with a lot of corn mixed in, and this is pretty much very high rye, but also kind of young. So you're getting all those fresh, light characteristics. I enjoy it though. I think that's very, very solid. Well done. Now, Pinhook 8. This is a vertical series 8. Again, Sean Josephs, great guy. But when we were in New Orleans, we also met up with some bourbon groups there, and they were talking this one up a lot. So I was really happy that he was able to supply a sample. And he didn't supply this to review. He just gave it to us as a friendly gesture. But I figured I'm doing a couple of ryes. This is also new. It's still on the market. I know Sealbox still carries it online. All right, this one definitely smells older. And the crazy thing is that's 8 years old. This is 10 years old. But I think this all goes back to climate, right? This is American matured. And over in the Netherlands and with these whiskeys, when they're aging up, it's much cooler climate. So I'm thinking they're going to age similar to Canadian whiskeys. And a 10-year-old Canadian rye is going to pale in comparison to a 10-year-old American rye as far as the depth of flavor. The time the wood has had to really breathe in Texas and get those really hot and cold cycles, You know, it breathes a lot and it ages really quickly comparatively. And so over there, when it's cooler, it just doesn't move as much. So even though it's 10 years old, it's going to taste more like what would be like, I guess, maybe a 4-year old in the U.S. in the hotter, warmer climates. But as far as the nose, very nice and fruity. I would call this one has a little bit of like baked apples, little spritz of orange oil, lots of brown sugar. Yeah, that little bit of like that dried strawberry, that's cool. And the oak is getting darker. It's darker than that, where it's a little more rich, feels a little more weathered. Let's go ahead and taste it. That's a great blend. I want to say you used 32 barrels in this one. Again, all the details will be in the comments. I mean, in the description. Medium, just above medium on the viscosity. Really nice and creamy, oily whiskey. That baked apple in with that little bit of cider, apple cider as well. Ooh. Yeah, there's a little bit of cherry element, but it's very natural feeling on the cherry. That dried strawberry elements in there, fresh rye. But the oak is definitely older. It's a denser. It starts going into that clove, little leather on the back end. That's a great bottle. At $85, yeah, that's a buy. So Pinhook 8, very, very solid rye. Now the Magi, again, basically 7.9-year-old to 22 years old. 107 proof. That 22-year-old barrel was a year on port. Yeah, that's what's different. This one's more into that Christmas pudding. You get lots of dark fruit here. Figs and plums and almost brandied cherries here. There's also there's a slight little, what is a sour component to it on the nose. I think it's the port. Almost like the sour cherry in with those brandied cherries on the nose. But a little cocoa, a little cola even. But let's taste it to be sure. Mm. Oh yeah, that sour component's in there. But medium, just above medium viscosity, so that's nicely done there. Hits you right away with a lot of those kind of darker stone fruits. That, again, plum, fig. This one's got like that, yeah, brandied cherries in this one. But also, again, sour cherries. It's got this, what is that? It's almost like if you were stewing, like, what's that word? Sauteing or stewing down the cherries, right? So they're getting a little sour cherry, they're getting a little condensed, concentrated flavor. It's got the orange oil, the caramel, that's kind of a caramel butterscotch, brown sugar combination in there. Leathery on the back end, cocoa, nice rich oak on the back as well. The only thing you have to be prepared on this one is that little light sour tone. It almost goes a little funky early, but it doesn't hang. It's one of those whiskeys that kind of, it rides a ride for you. It does lots of little different waves. And it hits early with that little sour cherry thing, and then it kind of rolls over and it starts focusing on other things. It reminds me a little bit of like how Ben Nevis will do in the Scotch world, or Edward Hour. They'll do the same thing. They'll get a little weird, right? It's kind of a cool aspect when you're, you don't want the same old all the time. You want something that's kind of a little different. This one has it. But luckily, it's not strong enough to where if it was all that the whole way through, I could see where that would be a turnoff to some people. But when it's just a little flash of it, it's just a complexity aspect. Yeah, works really well. Yeah, with that little fruit, there's almost a little bit of a light bubble gum in here as well, in with all those kind of dried fruits. Really, really well done. I like it a lot. So, not that I would rank them, but because I don't do rankings, I don't do ratings. And the reason I don't is because I'm just trying to give you the exact tasting notes. I'll let you decide if what sounds good. Because if I rank it, let's say I rank this, I don't know, an 85. If I rank this an 85, and I rank this an 80, and let's say a 88, right? Well, that's just me. That's my personal opinion. You may have a total opposite. You may be looking for this flavor profile. And so that's why I think kind of ratings are usually pretty meaningless, but this is nice. This is nice. It's a little more on that straw, kind of fresh, vibrant. Yeah. I mean, it's the champ. And I think, you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. It's just totally different than what we kind of blend and aim for in the US. I think this may be more of a European palate type thing versus the American palate. Yeah. But you know what? If you're after something like this, again, you can still find the 100 proofer. But the one thing I'll say is the 100 proofer doesn't taste like this. This is that, again, lemon dill, I mean, not lemon dill, lemon pine and the apricot thing going on. The 100 proofer is more tropical. It's more malty almost. Almost like they were doing a malt rye combination there. So if you think westward on the single malt, American single malt side, that little tropical thing they do, that has it on the 100 proof. It's not here though. But I hope you enjoyed this video review. If you did, please consider joining us over at patreon.com/LiquorHound, where you can help support this channel because I still self-purchase all my bottles to review with the exception of the occasional little thank you gift. But you know, with their help, I'm able to keep this channel going, and I give you straightforward, unbiased reviews. And again, if you can, please join us there. If you can't, don't worry about it. Keep leaving all those great comments here on YouTube, and I'll get back to them just as soon as I can. Everyone, have a great day, and cheers.